Well, hello and welcome back to our study in 1 Peter. And today we're going to be starting chapter 5 of 1 Peter. Now, as we move into chapter 5, we see where Paul is starting to give his concluding instructions and exhortations. And today he's going to be talking to the elders in the churches that he's writing to, as well as talking to Christian humility. So, let us now read 1 Peter chapter 5, verses 1 through 7. So I exhort the elders among you, as a fellow elder and a witness of the sufferings of Christ, as well as a partaker in the glory that is going to be revealed. Shepherd the flock of God that is among you, exercising oversight, not under compulsion, but willingly, as God would have you, not for shameful gain, but eagerly, not domineering over those in your charge, but being examples to the flock. And when the chief shepherd appears, you will receive the unfading crown of glory. Likewise, you who are younger, be subject to the elders. Clothe yourselves, all of you, with humility toward one another. For God opposes the proud, but gives grace to the humble. Humble yourselves, therefore, under the mighty hand of God, so that at the proper time he may exalt you, casting all your anxieties on him, because he cares for you. So as we start to explore these first 7 verses of the last chapter of 1 Peter, we look at verses 1 through 4, we see really where Peter is now really giving some instructions, exhorting on the elders of the churches that he's writing to. Now, elders really came from the Jewish tradition, and an elder was really just someone who was supposed to be older and more mature and wiser and could lead the congregation. And we can see throughout the book of Acts that Paul and Barnabas, wherever they went, they would leave elders in place to help run the church. And certainly there was another office that was called a pastor. Now the pastor was really just a teaching elder, and he was to teach the elders, but also to teach the flock. And Peter's now giving them some instructions. And he doesn't give it one as one lording over them. I mean, he says here that he's an elder just like them. Now, if anyone had a right to maybe lord it over, it would be Peter. After all, he was the chief apostle. He was appointed by Christ to lead the new church. Yet he just calls himself an elder. He shows that humility that he's expecting from others. Now, he also gives a little bit of his resume, so to speak, that he saw the suffering of Christ. Now, there is no record of him actually being at the crucifixion, but there's probably a good chance that he saw it from afar. He may have been too afraid to go stand at the foot of the cross, but he probably saw Jesus being executed. And certainly he saw him being persecuted through his time that he spent with Jesus. But there were many who saw the suffering of Jesus, but they still didn't respond the way Peter did. They saw his suffering, but they still rejected him. Peter did not. And we should not either. We should see that suffering of Jesus, and we need to respond to it. Now, Peter then gives 3 things for the leaders of God's flock needs to do. And this isn't just for pastors and missionaries. This is for anyone inside the church with leadership position. He says that you need to do it willingly, right? You can't do it begrudgingly. Shouldn't do it for personal gain. And again, don't lord it over the flock, which is exactly what Peter was doing here. You need to be that servant leader. And if elders lead properly, when Jesus comes back, there'll be an unfading crown of glory that will be given to them. Now as we move into verses 5 and 7, we're looking at our then principles. Peter's really telling us that we have to have proper attitudes towards each other. Right? And having proper attitudes towards each other is really essential in maintaining our relationship with God. You know, Peter begins by talking to the younger people to be humble and to listen to their elders. But as soon as he finishes that, he immediately goes into telling everyone that they need to be humble. And of course, that's really a recurring theme throughout the whole Bible. How God really hates the proud, but will give grace to the humble. So we want to humble ourselves and we want to exalt God. What's our always principles here? Well, I think that a big one is one that we just kind of concluded with. The fact that we need to have the proper attitude with each other. We need to treat each other properly. And as we do that, we will have a better relationship with God. And then the other always principle is that we need to be humble, but it doesn't need to be a manufactured humility. We should be humble when we compare ourselves to the standard of Christ. And when we look at His life and what He has done for us and His perfection, we will automatically be humbled. So now, what's your now principles? What's God telling to you today through the writings of Peter? Let me know. Send an email, leave a comment. All are appreciated, and I certainly appreciate all of them that I've been getting in. Thank you so very much. Now please come back on Wednesday as we continue on in our verse-by-verse study of 1 Peter chapter 5 as we get close to the end. Until then, stay safe. Look out for each other. Be humble. Go with God's grace and with the peace that only He could provide. Amen.